It's time for another edition of a live Locked On Lions squad show. We've got Natalie Kerwin and Bradford Banta. My name is Jake Riepma. Thanks so much for making us a part of your day. Shout out to the everydayers on the number one sports podcast platform, the Locked On Podcast Network. Natalie Kerwin, what is good in your world on the All-Star break?
Just hanging out. Honestly, I've been able to relax all week, which I can't ever say that. So we're hanging out, we're living life, and I'm with my favorite people on the Locked On Lions squad show.
Anime. I love it, Nat. All I know is this. The streets are cleaned up in New Orleans. Rod Wood announces his retirement, and somehow the Lions are more stable than ever. That's growth, Detroit.
One pride. It's the Lions Squad. Everything Detroit Lions every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Motor City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the roar of the Lions to the next great chapter, the Lions Squad Show starts now.
The Locked On Lions squad show starts right now. Shout out to everybody making us a part of your day. Tuning in. We've got Bradford Banta, Natalie Kerwin, and yours truly, Jake Riepma, ready to go over a busy show for the offseason. Major front office news. Rod Wood announcing his retirement. We'll continue our deep dive free agency series, checking in on the defensive line in today's episode. And Terrion Arnold clarifies the legal matter that broke earlier this week. I've got some good insight on that as well. We will discuss. And as always, your comments are welcome. That's what makes it fun, the interactive style, the live show. And if you miss us live, you can catch us anywhere. Audio only version available wherever you get your podcast. And YouTube, it never ends. This show is always available on YouTube. But guys, I don't know if I do a good enough job, we do a good enough job collectively of always saying hello to people that turn us on every single episode. So I want to give a special shout out to a couple of good friends that have been checking out the program nonstop. Two of my dad's best friends tune in every single episode. Shout out to Dave Potter and Bobby Staples. They are big fans of the program, and we appreciate them tuning in because that's how they found out I was hanging out in Midland, Michigan this week for some tennis action. But guys, we had story time last episode, and that got the people going. Bradford Banta, have you recovered from Mardi Gras?
I did recover from Mardi Gras, and Detroit style. But all I know, talk to some of my family that went down to Mardi Gras, and you got to understand that Mardi Gras is not just Fat Tuesday. It goes on for about a month. It goes on for about a month, and then you start, on Ash Wednesday, you start the Lenten season, and it goes all the way through Easter.
Month-long party. That's a party I want to be at. No,
man,
I'm kidding.
That sounds like the
Natalie. Yeah, you do.
Natalie Kerwin lifestyle. A month-long party.
All right. I'm not saying nothing. All I know, though, is that at some point I will be making my way down to New Orleans for this Mardi Gras celebration. Even though I was there, a month ago now, it was just before things got started, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. So, but it was still cool. Went down Bourbon Street, saw the balconies that you were referring to, Bradford, with all the beads and decor hanging off. And it was it's cool to see if you haven't seen it. Like I enjoyed being able to check that off the list. So Jake, you're next.
Yeah, absolutely. And what better way than a squad field trip led by Bradford Banta as our tour guide, and he can show us the way. And you and I, it's one thing to talk about it, but to actually get out there and experience it. So we're going to make that happen. I've heard from a couple of different sources that Locked On would be willing to sponsor the trip and be a part of their massive budget. So I know Sam can make a lot of things happen, and probably a Locked On Lions squad trip to New Orleans is one of those. So
and we can totally write this thing off and then team up with the New Orleans squad show and do a dual show down there.
A little collab. I love it.
That's right. A little
Matt
collab.
Derry can come along with us. The more the merrier.
Great call. He was jealous, by the way, I think he was jealous of all the fun we had on Tuesday's show.
Probably. It's got to be hard sometimes being a one-man band. He does so much. No, seriously, sometimes you want to have a little fun, have people to banter off of. And I mean, I don't know. What other show are you going to see a 38-minute rant on Mardi Gras?
We did get a couple of comments like, oh, fast forward till the 37-minute mark. That's when the show starts. So you know what? You only have to fast forward to the 5.5-minute mark this time, guys, because we're getting right into it.
What a segue.
How about that? That's why they pay me the big bucks at Locked On, you know? And that being said, Rod Wood announces his retirement. How about that for some front office shakeup going on here in February? I will say this: when I saw the news that Rod Wood was announcing his retirement, and the timeline on it is what stood out to me, is the definitive nature of it. It's not really a victory lap or a final season like you'll see players do all the time. And I remember, for whatever reason, equate it always to when Miggy announced his retirement for the Detroit Tigers, and every road trip, the opposing team had some gift for him, and some of them were awesome. And, I don't think that really happens with front office members, but I'm sure, it'd be cool, Rod Wood, for if he had one more season, whatever away game he was at, if the opposing team provided him some gift. But Nat, I'll start with you. When you saw the news that Rod announced his retirement, your initial thoughts and kind of reaction to it all.
I was surprised just because we hadn't heard any sort of rumor swirling that it could happen. Not that I feel like it usually does with front office people compared to players, but I was shocked because he's been here for, 11 years now, since 2015. So he's been leading the charge with this group for as long as, I can, for as long as I can remember, a very long time. And he's been, he was an integral part in hiring, obviously, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, and it changed the franchise. And so he's just a guy, when you think of Lions ownership, he's a name that pops up. So I was surprised that it came at this time too, because to your point, it's not like he's necessarily riding off into the sunset with anything. It felt like maybe he could have had one more year under his belt to see what happens this coming season, right? Like with some new coaches in place and all of that. Like it just felt kind of like an odd time, right? Yeah. Like right now. So that was my initial reaction to it.
Yeah, I am I surprised a little bit? Does he want to get on with the rest of his life? Yeah. And this may have already been in the plan to go double-digit years with the Detroit Lions, because he has already had strong ties with the Ford family prior to his hiring as the president of the Detroit Lions, because he was working with the Ford estates, prior to this. And so he had strong ties to the family, with the Detroit Lions being family owned. And that's how he made his mark. And then it just transferred over to the Detroit Lions, which is another, look, it's a matter of fact of it's another business venture for the Ford family. They have the cars, they have, Ford estates, everything that this family has established in the Detroit area and nationally. And then they also have the athletic team, meaning the Detroit Lions. And what Rod brought was a business acumen to the Detroit Lions that they needed in that position. And you stop and think about what has been accomplished over these last 11 years. You're talking about major stadium and training facility upgrades. And then one of the kind of the crown jewel was, while he was, as acting as the president, was the 2024 draft and bringing it to the city of Detroit. And you're talking about in, late April, having it in a place up north, and you're not really sure how the weather's going to be, but he knew with the fan base that the Detroit Lions have, that the showing by just the Detroit Lions fans were going to show out, let alone all other 31 other teams coming to the Detroit area and the major economic impact it had on the city itself. So that was, it was hats off to him for making that happen. He leaves a legacy because he came into the office with a lot of, descending comments, meaning he doesn't know football.
Yep.
Well, look,
For sure.
I'm here to tell you, and I know firsthand. Yeah, the final product is out on the field, but there are many, many moving parts in the NFL that concern business, and that's what the NFL is first and foremost, is a business. And I'm not going to get into a story about it or anything like that, but it may come at some point in time in the near future, just talking about stories, Nat. And, but he controlled the business side of the Detroit Lions, and he put the proper people in place, meaning Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, Chris Spielman, to handle the football side. He knew what his strengths were, and he knew what his weaknesses were. So you always hire people that have those strengths, which are your weaknesses. And he was smart enough to know that. And Sheila, to her credit, I'm trying to think, I can't remember. Did Sheila take over? When did Sheila take over the team? I can't remember. Or was Mrs. Ford still handling that aspect of it?
Yeah, because I vaguely, I think I was still at the ticket when that handover took place.
Yeah.
I remember it being obviously major news, and that's kind of where, like, when you were talking about some of the comments and feedback and just overall viewpoint of Rod Wood for a long time before the success of the Detroit Lions. I remember living and breathing that every day when I was at 97 won the ticket in some of those really, really dark years with Matt Patricia and what's the general manager's name? Bob Quinn. And yeah. And there was, you run out of ways when you're living and breathing Detroit Lions football and talking about such negativity from that, that time period of I was at the ticket, 2018 until 2023. And those first couple of years, it was like we would rotate who would be the scapegoat for this week's coverage of bad Detroit Lions football. And Rod Wood's name came up time and time again. And the knock was exactly that. He's a businessman. The Fords just hired a friend to do too important of a job. And to your point, Bradford, the back portion of his tenure, you look at it and what a strong legacy he's left. In addition, I was reading up on some of the other kind of lasting impact kind of things that he did for the Lions with the draft, obviously improving the practice facilities, improving some of the renovations at Ford Field. So a guy that really turned his name, reputation, and body of work around in the back portion of his tenure.
And I think the longer you're in a position too, like for someone like him coming in that didn't have a huge football background, you see what more of the league is doing, what other teams are doing. And he realized what the Lions needed to have to be the team that they are today. So to your point, like having the draft here was huge, set an attendance record, which I believe maybe has been broken at this point. Maybe not. Does Detroit still have it?
I think so, because it was at Green Bay last year. Yeah. So I'm not sure. Not sure.
But regardless, at the time, it was huge. Yeah. And, you know, being down there for all 3-4 days of it, it was amazing to see what Rod and company and the planning that went into it with the city was incredible. And as we mentioned, you know, him bringing in Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes and just everything he's done for the organization. It's why they're the way they are right now. So it begs the question, who's next? Who's going to fill in that role? And that can be a whole other segment at some point, but just interesting to see, you know, big shoes to fill.
Yeah. And the question I'm going to ask is, you know, do you fill it internally or do you fill it externally? Because I know they've hired, was that Russell Reynolds Associates to find a successor. And you know, what's the process that they're going to go through? What's the vetting process that they're going to go through? And, you know, and I'm going to bring up a couple names internally, talking about Chris Spielman and Michael Disner. Chris is the special assistant to the owner and CEO, and Mike Disner is the COO of the club right now. And you talk about two totally different personalities, you know, that you're looking at here. And is it something that Chris wants to take on, you know, as far as the business side of it? Because, you know, we all know Chris's personality is football, and he's all about culture and, you know, keeping it within the program and building a strong culture and a strong team. In the meantime, while offering his opinion to Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, and to Sheila as well. Does he want to take on that added responsibility of the business side of it? Now, you look at Michael Disner, who is not a carbon copy of Rod Wood, but he has been involved in everything business-wise concerning the Detroit Lions. You know, he has over 2 decades of experience in the NFL. You know, he's been with the Lions for 8 years. He understands the inner workings. And he just, in my opinion, for Disner, who has been interviewed for other president jobs for different clubs across the league, he may seem to be the front runner for the Detroit Lions, because he's been the COO, since 2022. And, you know, and this was after serving the senior vice president of football and business administration. And that just seems like what Rod Wood was doing. And he was the number 2 under Rod Wood. And both of those would ping pong off of each other with the final say coming from Rod Wood.
Yeah, as far as, I mean, and Brad, for this, where I want to wrap it up, just the discussion on it. Do you think from your time in the league, both as a player and as a coach, I guess start with players from a player perspective, when there's movement at the top of the organization in the front office, do you think that obviously it's going to depend on the specific player and how that news and information is received, but overall, do you think it has a huge impact? It's kind of somewhere in the middle, or, you know, they see the headline and they're on with their day?
I would say the latter. They see the headline, and because as a player, I'll speak from both sides of the coin, as a player and a coach. Probably as a player looks at it, okay, how does it affect me?
Right.
It doesn't. Because, you know, I perform, I make the team, you know, and we go from there. What would affect me would be a new position coach, a new coordinator, a new head coach, and a new general manager, and a new director of player personnel. Those are the 5 positions that would affect me directly as a player. As a coach, I would want to see how somebody as the president, CEO affects the football aspect of the business. And, does he have a say in the final 53? Does he have a say on how we're game planning? Obviously, Rod Wood did not. He'll be in the draft room. And just because, those guys deal more in numbers, talking about caponomics, that type of stuff on the business side of it. Now, but as a coach, does it really affect you? Not all that much. He's more concerned. They see big picture stuff that they're looking down the road, and how can they make money for the club?
Yeah, it does feel like there's that distinct separation between on-field / the business side of it, and kind of the know your role and the stay in your lane narrative,
Yeah.
But all right, that being said, hey, let's keep it rolling. We've got the second part of our series, our off-season series, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, the deep dive of free agency and free agency wish lists on the defensive line. That's next. Don't go anywhere. It's the Locked On Lions Squad Show. But first, today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. We're looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best and which just might be sleepers. The board is set. The flavors are ready, and only one is going to take the top spot. 5 Hour Energy has a wide variety of flavors and something for everyone. In this 5 Hour Energy draft, here's how it works. You pick your top flavors to discuss and describe all about it. And oh my goodness, there are some good ones. There's cotton candy, a delicious swirl of sugary clouds, a fruity twist, a hint of vanilla. It's the sweet side of tasty caffeine, a throwback flavor with a boost, light, airy, and a candy profile. It's pure sweetness from start to finish. Sweet tooth fix without any sugar guilt. That's right. Or how about the confetti craze? Yeah, this one's not overly sweet though, but it is delicious. It's a blend of rich and buttery, fresh baked confetti cake, smooth vanilla frosting, and a sprinkle of sweetness in every single sip. Sweet birthday cake inspired flavor. There's notes of vanilla frosting and sugary sprinkles, and it's smooth dessert, and it's perfect. It's rich, indulgent sweetness from start to finish. That's the confetti craze. So those are my two top picks this week, cotton candy and confetti craze. You got to find out for yourself what your top two picks would be. Now, don't forget, it's all about the flavor. And no, that's right. 5 Hour Energy is all about finding your new favorite flavor of, that's right, 5 Hour Energy shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. That's 5hourenergy.com. Or on Amazon. It's the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft.
I'm always waiting for his reaction.
You know what was going through my mind as you were reading that commercial?
Oh, I can't wait.
If you would have read that this past Tuesday, that would have been a perfect lead-in for another story. Because a crew of 5, talking about crew, KREWE, of 5 Hour Energy, and have them be their own, have them have their own parade. I would want to be the next parade that came through, because 5 Hour Energy would be throwing these confetti and angel food cake flavors and all that kind of stuff. And people would just be downing them one after the other. And then the next parade that came through, let's say 30 minutes later.
Yeah.
Those people would be going berserko.
Yeah. 5 Hour Energy, man. And the ad copy there, a little behind the scenes, behind the curtain look. I just do much better when they tell me what to say and not have to create the commercial in my head while I'm actually going through all this. So I apologize for my inability to execute the commercial there. But 5 Hour Energy, man, let me tell you, they're getting everything they paid for because we've been talking about it for the last 5 minutes here. 5 Hour Energy, and it's also hard to say for me. 5 Hour Energy. Yes, you got to finish the hour before you go into the energy. But yeah, it's
move the jaw.
I want to try that flavor. Sounds kind of, you convinced me, Jake. You did a pretty good job. You know what I mean? Like,
that's what I was going for. I appreciate that, guys. All right.
Send us some 5 Hour to our show, please. We'll do a taste test.
Yeah, if they sent some to me, I absolutely would. But no, I just have to read about it. But all right, I'm sure Sam will be all over that for us, and we'll have some 5 Hour Energy in our inbox or in our mailbox, not our inbox, here shortly. But deep dive off-season series. It's time to move on to the defensive line. We tackled the offensive line last episode for a little bit. Maybe we'll spend a little bit more time on the defensive line. And it starts with the conversation about an article that links Joey Bosa to the Detroit Lions as a favorable destination. Now, admittedly, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, I get them mixed up. They're both big, huge defensive ends, edge rushers. They're both big white guys that sometimes get hurt, but also try to get to the quarterback. And I know that's not fair. They're their own individual person, and I shouldn't confuse them, but I'm just being honest. Sometimes I do. Joey Bosa was with Buffalo last year, had the hamstring injury, and again, when he's on the field, can be very impactful, but also getting a little bit long in the tooth. And you start to discuss, is he still a high impact player for the price that you would have to pay? And on paper, yeah, sure, pairing him with Aiden Hutchinson looks really, really good. But Nat, as we start our free agency wish list on the defensive line side of things, what and even just relating it to Joey Bosa, where are you at with the speculation or kind of fitting that piece of the puzzle into the equation?
Well, to your point, I don't have the exact number of years now that he's been playing, but I don't think he's the same Joey Bosa that he was on the Chargers. 10. How many were we talking?
10.
What was this? 10? Okay. 10. the hands that came in here.
I know.
So, again, might not be the same player that you used to get out of him back in the day, but do the Lions really need to address that position this offseason? Absolutely. And I think Joey Bosa still does have some left in the tank, right? He is, as you just said, Jake, him and his brother, two just big dudes that know how to get to the quarterback, that are just strong, physical guys. And we need someone that can fill that role opposite of Hutch, whether you are going to go after a Max Crosby type guy or Joey Bosa. I mean, would I want the Lions to go after a big name? Yes. Do I think they'll do that? I'm not sure. But when I read that about Joey, sure, bring him here. Like, why not? What's nothing ventured, nothing gained. But the D line as a whole, with that being said, does need some addressing. Aleem McNeil, he's one guy that battled back from injury last year. I think he's going to be, he's a contract that they're going to maybe need to possibly restructure a little bit, but he's obviously a key piece. I think he's going to be back obviously in full health now through a full off season and all of that. DJ Reader, little iffy. Not so sure if he'll be back. He might be gone. Roy Lopez, I thought, was a bright spot last season. We talked about him a lot in the hair, the long, luscious locks. I think he was a good piece. Josh Pascal, he was out for all season last year. Will he be back? Not so sure. Levi Onwuzurike is the other name I'm a little iffy on too. So I guess when you lay all of that out, definitely needs some work and some rebuilding. How the Lions pursue that, I'm not so sure. So Bradford, I'll pass it along to you now, how you envision the Lions dealing with, I guess, the guys that I just listed, and what you think on Joey too.
Yeah, no, would it be a good addition? Yes. Major concern is injury history. Mm-hmm. So he is what I term, he's leaking a little oil. So, and how do you go about, plugging up the holes, in his body to where you can get a 17 plus game production out of him? And then does it fall into the category of Taylor Decker? Are you managing him throughout the season? Does he get limited reps during training camp? Does he get limited reps during the season? And then does he have rest days? And can he perform? It's a lot of those things. And then at what cost is it going to be for the Detroit Lions to get Bosa into the building? And that's going to be the same question that's asked for everyone that they bring in. And then after you vet him, then, is he a good fit for the culture of the team? These are all questions that are batted around in these meeting rooms whenever you have the pro personnel director and the coaches and the GM are all talking about this whenever they're talking about free agents. And so, and then, okay, if his price tag is a little too high, then, who could you target next? Well, I want to bring up a name that could possibly be a name. It's a teammate of Bosa's, and it's AJ, I think Epinesa, I believe is how you pronounce it. He's didn't quite have the production this past season, but has had it in the, in his career. He's got 4 less years in the league than Bosa does. So the holes in his oil pan aren't as big. So, it's just, these are all names that are being batted around, and, they have that 2-day tampering window that is on the books, that 2-day tampering window that's on the books prior to the March 11th start day of free agency. And, who knows what they're cooking right now? Because like we were talking about last show, there's a lot of time between now and March 11th, a lot of time, because some of these deals may be put together in let's say a 3 or 4 hour window where you just, and stuff is flying. Other stuff may be worked on prior to, because these agents are calling around and trying to judge the interest that they have, not only in the upcoming free agents current club, but also he's gathering news from that current club, and he's trying to find the best deal he can for his player. And because, it's just simple business is, hey, the more my player gets paid, the more I get paid.
Yeah.
And that's what he's trying to do. But players of Bosa's nature are going to have ideas on where they want to go.
Right.
Because the common theme, I'd say for the last, 15, 20 years, somewhere around there, is these players come out and say, yeah, I want to play, but I want to go to a contender.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right. Okay. So you're going to whoever wants to give you the most money. That's hands down number one. You're going to be looking out for yourself. Unless you get in that rarefied air, which there's just a small percentage of players that can actually do that.
Yeah.
But just keep that name in mind, the AJ, Epinesa, and just keep that name in mind just for further down the road whenever the sparks start flying around March 11th.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting that a couple names that we're bringing up and discussing are both, free agents last played for the Buffalo Bills, because part of the process, just like when you're talking trades, it takes two to tango and everything else. But from a free agency standpoint, and I was reading a couple of articles from Bills writers where you look at it from their perspective, and they're in a unique situation where they still feel like they're in their Super Bowl window with Josh Allen, yet undergoing, the Lions, of course, underwent 2 coordinator changes last year, and they undergo a head coaching change last year. And what's the new kind of philosophy going to be brought in from Joe Brady? Obviously, an offensive guy. How does that factor into an investment level on the defensive side? So many more kind of data points or conversation parts of the conversation to consider as it relates specifically to Bosa and Epinesa from the Buffalo Bills, which I thought was just kind of, not to make it doesn't really determine heads or tails of it all. It's just one more area to kind of consider that with the Bills, they're in a unique spot as well, just like a lot of other teams that, still feel like they're very much in that Super Bowl window, that buzzword we love to throw around. But it's what the NFL wants. I was on here's my shout out to SI Lions and our good friend John McCarron and the doc. I was on his show this week and he was on ours last week. Awesome dude. So make sure you check that out. Lots of great Lions coverage all around the interwebs. But we were just talking about exactly that the NFL is a lot of things, but for certain, Roger Goodell and the rest of the league office and the parity that's been created, it feels like there are every year 28 to 30 teams that feel like they can A, make the playoffs, and then B, make some noise in the playoffs. So that just makes the year-round cycle of can't miss NFL content and discussion. So they've won at that point. Like the NFL being the parity-driven league that it is, everybody feels like they are a part of it. But that being said, the last thing, Josh Paschal and Nat, I know you mentioned his real name, but I refer to him as Levi out again this week, eh? Those are two guys that we had a whole episode on it because of the uniqueness in the CBA that allowed them to get one more year under contract. And they're not going to cost the Lions anything, but I just think we're kidding ourselves if we expect any production from them. It's like the definition of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. I think it's been long enough for Pascal and out again this week, because they can't stay healthy. And I know that's mean and I'm the bad guy for saying that, but we got to call it what it is, right?
But you do like Brian Branch, don't you?
Yeah. That's my favorite player.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah. You know who else? Doc on the SI Lions podcast, the Lone Wolf, gave me a hard time about that. He's like, I know you hate Brian Branch. I'm like, what the heck, man? I do not hate him. He's a great player. Look at me getting fired
Just
up.
some of the theatrics in game is what you don't like.
He's such a great player that he helps the Lions when he's on the field, ergo de facto, when he's suspended and not on the field, he doesn't help the Lions. It's a compliment to him. But hey, the T-shirts of him flipping the bird to the Green Bay fans are great. T-shirts win championships, everybody. Remember that.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. Whatever player makes the best T-shirts, that's who we should go after. How does Joey Bosa and his T-shirts work? I mean, I'm sure we could get something going. So he's got to be good, right?
What's his nickname?
I don't know. Come on, something. The Bosa brothers.
I know.
Does he have one? I don't know. But all right, let's keep it rolling. Are we? Now that I've fully pulled the train off the tracks, we're
Big Bear.
Big Bear. Okay. I mean,
so you could make a cool shirt. I just had to make a plan.
All right. Yeah. See, that's why David Montgomery needs to stay with the Lions. Angry Runs. That's a great T-shirt.
I have mine in my closet. Okay, you already. Yeah, I've showed it on the show a few times.
Exactly. That's what that was. I was handing you the baton there.
Yeah, you did, and I kind of didn't pick it up and run with it. So
you always do. Come on. All right. What do we got next segment? We're clear in the air with Terrion Arnold and some of the headlines that fair or unfairly NBC ran with, and we will discuss that next on the Locked On Lions Squad Show. But first, excited to tell you all about today's sponsor making the show possible, and that is Indeed. That's right. Everybody loves Indeed. Where's my Indeed graphic? There it is. All right. Workplace chaos. Yeah, Locked On Squad Show chaos. Deadlines stacking up. Inbox overflowing. The one position you have to still fill, it's sitting wide open. When the pressure is on, you need the right hire. This is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. I'm talking skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. You can be sure of it. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you and you've probably tuned me out, tune back in, because companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. And that happens with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of the Locked On Lions Squad Show get a $75 bonus sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on the Locked On Lions Squad Show. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Jobs. All right, much better, much better. We're cruising right along on the Locked On Lions Squad Show. If you're just joining us, you've got Jake Riepma, myself, Natalie Kerwin, and Bradford Banta on the #1 sports podcast platform, the Locked On Lions Squad Show. I'm not supposed to do the whole reset thing. That was part of some of my feedback, but it's habit. It's the radio thing just kind of coming through there. So I apologize, guys. That's on me.
Like we're reading our names?
No, yeah, kind of like so in sports talk radio, they say assume you have a new listener every 8 seconds. And so you're always resetting, always setting the scene. But in theory, and this is probably boring our entire audience, so I apologize. But in theory, if I'm listening to a podcast, I'm listening to it from start to finish. And so if I turn the podcast on at the beginning, I know it's Jake Riepma, Natalie Kerwin, and Bradford Banta. So it's just bad practice by me that we got to be better. It's a self-evaluation. Bradford, did you ever have to do self-evaluation on the film as a long snapper?
Always.
Yeah, right.
Always. You do it every play. Any play that you're in, it's how can I improve?
Right.
That's
big self-eval guy over here. We're all big self-eval people here. And then I remember they get the laser pointer up. It's always the old coach like, oh, yeah, you got to be better right there. I used to dread film sessions. You get a spreadsheet of all your critical errors and, every play just under a microscope graded out. And not that I have PTSD over it or anything, but it's
just slightly.
Yeah, just slightly. Just wake up in the middle of the night. God dang it.
The laser pointer.
Yeah. Yeah. But back then it'd be like a dark film room. It'd be like 6 a.m. during training camp. You're just trying to stay awake. I used to eat like sunflower seeds just in the meetings so that I would stay awake. And it'd be like 6 a.m. I'd have like ranch or barbecue sunflower seeds for breakfast just so that I could stay awake in those meetings.
All right. Here's a question for you then.
Sunflower seeds.
Well, because you can't be like having you had to be respectful. You can bring like a big meal to the team meeting, but you could just casually, like it was so they wouldn't, you couldn't have food in the meeting, but you could sneak sunflower seeds in there.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. Would you have a cup or would you take a piece of paper and make a funnel type container out of it and use that to catch your seeds? Which one?
Great question. I was an empty Gatorade bottle guy because I always had a Gatorade bottle with me. And this is talking meetings here, right on the Locked On Lions Squad Show. So that being said, guys, Terrion Arnold headline came out. Pro Football Talk, NBC, the TV station in Tampa Bay. We'll get to the details. Bradford, you were first on this. I got to give you a lot of credit. You saw the headline, sent it in the old group chat. Usually it's me blowing you guys up at like 2 a.m. Oh, did you guys see this headline? But you were all over it.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because you always want your entire year, but especially the off season. If you're a club, you want it to be radio silent. You don't want any news of any off-field happenings to occur. And you always, as a coach or as GM or anybody associated with the club and in management, you don't want to get that midnight call of a player or an employee that is being put out in the public because of their either something that they did or something that some people that they were associated with did. And that seems to be the case here, where I believe there was some stuff that was stolen from Terrion Arnold's rental house, I think in the Tampa area, or was it here? I wasn't clear on that. And then
Tampa, I thought.
Yeah, Florida.
And then 2 people associated with Arnold, part of his security team.
Yeah, alleged. That was
Alleged.
yeah, that's where the second report, and sorry to jump in like that.
No.
The second report, they had to send an editor's note, and that never seems to generate as many headlines as the first one. Two guys, because apparently the first report said it was his cousin was one of the suspects and somebody on his security team. And the editor's note clarified that 1, it wasn't his cousin, and 2, the other guy wasn't on his security team. So it was kind of I honestly, and Doc and I were talking about this on his squad show yesterday, because not to, make this the Doc show without him even being here, but he has a contact with Arnold's agent, called him right away. And obviously his agent's going to be able to provide even more insight onto it. And it's like, no, it's not his cousin, and the guy's not on his security firm.
Gosh, so then you wonder how that even gets linked together then, because obviously without people seeing the follow-up with the editor's note, they're just going to assume they see Terrion Arnold in the same headline as, robbery and kidnapping and all of that. And it's like, okay, this is exactly what you don't need during the off season. And if it's not even anywhere close to being true and he's not involved whatsoever, it's just unnecessary. So you just wonder who reported this story. I got my journalist hat on right now, as do you, Jake, and that's no good journalism.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's, and unfortunately, that is the world that we live in today. Yeah. It's basically, for lack of a better term, is shoot first, aim second.
Yes.
And get your facts straight, confirm those facts, and then put the news out there. This incident here seems to be, I want to get the story out first. I want to be the first to put it out there. And that's where you ruin people's, credibility, public credibility. And because whenever I first read the story, I'm like, come on, man. I mean, a security team? Really? I go, yeah, no, I get the stature and all this stuff that's associated with it, but I don't get it. Like, if he has a security team, why?
Right.
Why?
And they're clearly not doing a very good job because apparently the items stolen were high-end handbags and luggage, guns, and things that it seems like the security team would be responsible for protecting.
You would think so. Yeah.
In that field, though.
And that's where the security system comes into play. That, I would say most common households have a security system for whenever you either leave the house or you go to bed at night. And no, I understand that. But to have a security team, I just don't get it. And that's me. If you have a security team, there's another story that you should be digging for besides that. So, and Nat with the journalistic hat on right now is shaking with agreement.
That's right. I am, because it's like, where do you even pull those facts out of? And to your point, there are people that just like to be the first ones on the scene, just to get the news out, just to get clicks. not that I'm speculating on any of this, but that's exactly what this story feels like, especially if the doc was able to confirm with sources close to Terrion that, yeah, that he is in no way, shape, or form involved with this. Like,
Yeah.
then you just feel bad for Terrion because it's unnecessary off-season drama that he has to worry about clearing his name. Like, you don't want to have any noise around yourself when you're not in season, at least not news like this. And so
For sure.
you just kind of feel bad for him in the sense trying to clear his name now. Like, look, I had nothing to do with this.
Yeah. Now, again, well, it is in as far as like the actual crimes and what they're being charged with, that's all still developing and everything. And, going back and forth in their legal matters of that. The judge was quoted as saying there's a lot of hearsay in all this, but, and either way, how it all plays out, the two suspects and, by all indications are not tied to Terrion Arnold, but it sounds like some bad stuff happened. But that being said, you move forward and a lesson learned for this Florida, I think it was Tampa and Fox station and on Fox 13. I don't know. But yeah, Fox 13 News out of Tampa there. So there you have it. But let's wrap up the show. Get everybody on out of here of their lunch power hour with the Locked On Lions squad show. Don't go anywhere. We tie a bow on it next.
Hey, it's Matt Derry from the Locked On Lions podcast. The people I love depend on me. If I'm gone, the financial responsibilities don't disappear. I didn't want my family figuring things out during the hardest moment of their lives. That's why I knew only one place to go. I chose life insurance through my friends at Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. I love the folks at Ethos. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get the free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. That is ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Application times and rates may vary.
Bada boom, bada boom. Love when I see the video commercial on the old run sheet. That's music to my ears in a lot of ways. But here we go, wrapping it up. You know the drill. We tie a bow on the final segment of the Locked On Lions squad show on our normal Tuesday and Thursday recording time this week. Enjoying that NBA All-Star break for the Rose Between Two Thorns, Natalie Kerwin. When are the Pistons back in action?
Tonight.
Oh.
Tonight, yes, but I'm not on it, which is why I was able to be on today's episode. So it's on Amazon Prime. Not that I want to hype up another.
I was just gonna say,
network
yeah,
that's not my own.
Right,
But
we're team Natalie Kerwin. No matter what happens with FanDuel,
Exactly.
Oh my goodness, I haven't. I meant to reach out to you about that. We'll get into that a little. What do they say? We'll take this one offline.
We'll take this. Sure, yeah, we'll do this one a little off the record, but they're on Prime tonight. Pistons and Knicks. It's gonna be a good one because if you guys watch the last two matchups, Pistons beat them by 35 plus.
Yeah, I'll say
games,
I gotta remember when we had Marshall Green, who covers the Giants, on our show. Huge Knicks fan, so I had to give him a hard time multiple times when the Pistons showed that they are the best team in the East. So hopefully that happens again tonight. Otherwise, I'm sure I'll be hearing from friend of the program, Marshall Green.
Yeah, I mean it's in New York. You wouldn't think the Knicks would let that happen a third time, so I expect it to be pretty competitive, but Pistons still don't have Isaiah Stewart, not for a while. So that's a 7-game suspension he is serving. So
there you go.
And I believe Jalen Duren's out again tonight. He had a 2-game suspension. So anyway, but the Pistons continue to prevail. Come on, that's why I'm rocking the hat today. We got the old school logo.
I was just going to say, that is one of my all-time favorite, not just Pistons logo, but logos in sports, Detroit logo. I love that. But also, shameless plug, the Locked On Pistons squad show coming to the airwaves later this year. Lindsey Hunter signed on the dotted line. The ink is still drying, but it's official. So I didn't really plan for that to be the announcement. I think I had mentioned it once or twice on this show. But we'll have myself, we'll have Koo, who runs the daily Locked On Pistons show, and Lindsey Hunter. So all of you Lions fans that are also Detroit Pistons fans will have the Locked On Pistons squad show starting Tuesday. So it's coming right up.
All right.
Wait, is it real? So you're doing it, Jake?
I am. I got the call back. All of my didn't I tell you that?
I didn't think Jake never said he was doing it. He mentioned Lindsey.
Yep.
But what? So it's you and Koo and Lindsey. What a squad.
Yeah, what a squad.
Intended,
right.
but
No wonder you're sporting the cap today. I like it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know. Well, and Jake, he's
Oh yeah, I'm all locked on, baby. They took away the Pistons post-game shows, but we are back. So I can bring my unpopular beef stew takes and get everybody upset in the comments and continue to talk about the team that I love so dearly, the Detroit Pistons. And Nat, we're gonna have to have you on often.
Yeah, dude, I'm ready. This is me as the guest. Let's go.
Would you be okay with that?
Turn. Yes.
Yeah.
This is awesome. I bet I've gone on an episode with Koo before. I know Lindsey, he's worked with us a few different times. So I mean, it'll be like family. Yeah, this is great.
I love it. Can't wait for that. But all right, we'll round table this one out. I thought a good closing exercise for today's episode. Rod Wood was the feature story. He is retiring. How will you remember Rod Wood? And I will start because I think I'll remember him in turning it around and being a part of the turnaround, because I still, and I said this earlier in the show, just remember how he was lambasted over and over again by a lot of people in this town. Not a football guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. And then before you know it, the Lions are an upper echelon premier franchise in the NFL. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen with one person, but he was a part of that turnaround. And I think a good visual to that is the aerial shot of downtown Detroit during the draft, and the number of people that just flocked to the draft, and how the Lions were the on center stage for all the NFL in that April 2024 draft.
I will piggyback off of that, but a big part in this resurgence that Rod helped lead was the hiring of kneecap biting MCDC. Nice. And that to me is huge. He wasn't the sole piece that brought him in, but one of the people that agreed to bring him here, and you see how it's worked out. So that's what I will remember Rod Wood for.
Yeah. I tell you, he has done a lot for this organization, and he's also done a lot for the city. Even before he became a part of the Detroit Lions, organization. And he will forever be known in the Detroit area for having a resurgence, or being part of the resurgence of the Detroit Lions. And like we stated earlier in the show, whenever we were talking about it in the first segment, he was smart enough to know that he understands business. He was also smart enough to know that, let's put it the way it is, he was a fan of the game. So he was smart enough to know to bring in the correct football people to turn this organization around and admit mistakes that he did initially, and then correct those mistakes the second time around. And he's been good for the organization. I'd be curious to see if he has any say in who is going to succeed him, or if they're just going to leave it all in the search firm's hands. I would imagine he'll have some say in it. But he's a definite plus in the Detroit area and for the state of Michigan, in the surrounding burbs, so to speak. And I'm talking about Toledo and, just that northern Ohio, northern Indiana area. So he leaves the Detroit Lions in a good place.
No
That's
doubt.
how he'll be remembered.
Yep. A lasting legacy for sure. We'll see what the Lions and the rest of the front office decide to do. I'm a huge Chris Spielman fan. I know he already plays such a integral part of that front office. But I mean, I lean on him heavily as far as the face, the voice, and doing so much for that front office to kind of pass the torch on title wise. And, titles are titles. Like, what does the CEO really mean in comparison to what Spielman is currently doing? But we'll wait and see. And I have a feeling we'll discuss it on our next episode, or whenever the news breaks. So that will be our next episode, Tuesday. Another question mark, penciling it in there. We got Nat holding up
the calendar.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I'm on the road. So I don't have my big desk calendar in front of me.
Tuesday, Thursday. We're good. At noon.
All right.
Look at that. Well, we're just cruising this week, cruising this episode. I mean, we didn't have too many story times. We got into some Lions talk, and the commercials were great. I mean, just a flawless executed episode there. I'm sure we'll take a look at the tape afterwards, and I think there will be very few areas to improve. But hey, we're big self-eval guys. We're big self-improvement guys, and we'll be better on Tuesday for our next episode.
Okay, there we go.
Right. All right. I love it. For Bradford Banta, Natalie Kerwin, my name's Jake Riepma. You can catch today's episode on the audio-only version wherever you get your podcast on the #1 sports podcast platform, the Locked On Podcast Network. We'll talk to you on Tuesday. Have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend. Goodbye.